In the dead of night, a German shepherd gently pulled a sleeping baby from her crib, carrying her out of the house at 3 a.m. Her parents, woken by the dog's urgent actions, followed in disbelief, only to uncover a danger they never saw coming. In the early hours of March 12, 2024, in a quiet suburb of Boise, Idaho, the Larson family was fast asleep. James Larson, a 34-year-old software engineer, and his wife, Emily, a 32-year-old nurse, had tucked their 10-month-old daughter, Lily, into her crib just after 8 p.m. the previous evening. Their German shepherd, Max, a 4-year-old rescue dog, lay curled up on his bed in the corner of the nursery, as he did every night. Max had been part of the family since he was a puppy, known for his loyalty and gentle demeanor, especially around Lily. The Larsons trusted him completely, often joking that he was Lily's furry big brother. At around 3 a.m., a faint sound stirred Emily from sleep. It wasn't Lily's cry or the usual creak of the house settling. It was a soft, insistent whine from Max. Emily sat up, rubbing her eyes, and nudged James, who was still snoring lightly. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. James mumbled something incoherent, but sat up when Max's whine grew louder, followed by the sound of his paws padding across the hardwood floor. Emily slipped out of bed, her heart picking up speed. Max wasn't the type to make noise at night unless something was wrong. She crept down the hallway toward the nursery, James following close behind, still half asleep. As they reached the nursery door, which was slightly ajar, Emily froze. The crib was empty. Lily's blanket was gone, and Max was nowhere in sight. "James," Emily said, her voice trembling. "Where's Lily?" James pushed past her, his drowsiness replaced by panic. "Lily?" "Max," he called, keeping his voice low but urgent. The house was dark, the only light coming from a small night light in the hallway. They checked under the crib, in the closet, anywhere a baby might have somehow ended up, but there was no sign of her. Emily's breath came in short gasps as she grabbed her phone to call 911, but James stopped her when he heard a faint noise from the living room. "Wait," he said, holding up a hand. "Listen." It was Max again, a low, muffled whine, coming from the front of the house. They hurried down the stairs, Emily clutching James's arm, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. As they reached the living room, they saw the front door slightly open, a cool breeze drifting in. James's stomach dropped. They never left doors unlocked, especially not with a baby in the house. "Max," James called, stepping toward the door. Emily followed, her bare feet cold against the floor, her heart pounding so hard she could barely think. They stepped onto the front porch, the night air chilly and still. That's when they saw him, Max, standing in the middle of the front yard, his dark fur barely visible in the moonlight. In his mouth, held gently by her blanket, was Lily, still asleep, her tiny body cradled carefully between his jaws. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered, tears springing to her eyes. James took a step forward, but Emily grabbed his arm. "Don't scare him," she said, her voice shaking. Max's eyes were fixed on them, his tail low but not wagging, his posture tense but not aggressive. He wasn't moving, just standing there, holding Lily as if waiting for them to catch up. "Max, buddy," James said softly, taking slow steps toward the dog. "What are you doing? Let her go, okay? Easy now." Max didn't move at first, but as James got closer, he gently lowered Lily onto the grass, stepping back, but staying close. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open, but she didn't cry. Emily rushed forward, scooping her daughter into her arms, checking her for any signs of harm. Lily was unharmed, still wrapped in her blanket, her cheeks warm and her breathing steady. Emily clutched her tightly, tears streaming down her face. "James, she's okay," Emily said, her voice breaking. "She's okay." James knelt beside Max, his hands shaking as he ran them over the dog's fur. "What the hell, Max? Why'd you do that?" he said, his tone a mix of relief and confusion. Max whined softly, nudging James's hand, his eyes darting back toward the house. Emily looked up, still holding Lily. "Why would he take her outside? He's never done anything like this." James stood, his brow furrowed. I don't know. Let's get her inside. We need to figure this out. They hurried back into the house, Emily cradling Lily, who was now fully awake but calm, cooing softly. James locked the front door behind them, his mind racing. Max followed closely, his ears perked, his behavior still agitated. Emily took Lily to the nursery to settle her, while James stayed with Max, watching him closely. The dog paced near the nursery window, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Something's off, James said when Emily returned. He's not acting normal. He didn't just randomly decide to grab her. Emily nodded, her face pale. He was whining before we woke up. Maybe he heard something? Or smelled something. James frowned, glancing at the nursery window. Let's check the house. Make sure everything's secure. They moved through the house, checking every door and window, their nerves still raw from the sight of Max carrying Lily outside. Everything seemed in place, nothing broken, no signs of an intruder. But when they reached the basement door, Max growled, a low, rumbling sound that made the hairs on James's neck stand up. Max, what is it? James said, his hand on the doorknob. Emily stood behind him, her phone in hand, ready to call for help if needed. James opened the door slowly, flipping on the basement light. Max stayed close, his growl deepening as they descended the stairs. The basement was unfinished, used mostly for storage, boxes of old clothes, holiday decorations, and James's tools. At first, everything looked normal, but Max beelined for a corner near the furnace, his nose pressed to the floor. James followed, his heart pounding. As he got closer, he noticed a faint smell, something acrid, like burning plastic. Emily, do you smell that? He said, kneeling beside Max. Emily joined him, her eyes widening.
Yeah.
It smells like something's burning. James moved a box aside, revealing a small electrical panel mounted on the wall. The smell was stronger here, and when he touched the panel cover, it was warm, not hot, but warmer than it should have been. Max whined, pawing at the floor near the panel. Stay back, James said, grabbing a flashlight from a nearby shelf. He carefully opened the panel, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Inside, he saw a tangle of wires, one of which was frayed, with faint scorch marks around it. A tiny spark flickered as he watched, and his stomach dropped. Emily, call 911, he said, his voice tight. We've got an electrical issue. This could have started a fire. Emily fumbled with her phone, dialing emergency services as James closed the panel and backed away. Max stayed by his side, his growling replaced by a tense alertness. Within minutes, they heard sirens approaching, and James carried Lily upstairs, Emily following with Max on a leash. The fire department arrived first, followed by a police officer to take their statement. A firefighter named Captain Mike Torres inspected the basement, confirming James's fears. You've got a serious wiring issue down there, Torres said. That frayed wire was arcing, and it's a miracle it didn't ignite anything yet. Another hour or two, and you could have had a full-blown fire. Emily's face went white, and she clutched Lily tighter. A fire? In the middle of the night? Torres nodded grimly. Happens more often than you'd think. Old wiring, overloaded circuits, it's a silent killer. You're lucky you caught it when you did. James looked at Max, who was sitting calmly now, his eyes fixed on Lily. We didn't catch it, he said quietly. Max did. The police officer, a woman named Officer Sarah Nguyen, raised an eyebrow. The dog? How's that? Emily explained what had happened. Max's whining, the empty crib, finding him in the yard with Lily, and his insistence on leading them to the basement. Nguyen listened, her expression shifting from skepticism to amazement. I've heard of dogs alerting owners to danger, but this? That's something else. Torres crouched beside Max, offering him a pat. Smart dog you've got here. Probably smelled the burning wire or sensed something was wrong. Animals pick up on things we miss. James nodded, his throat tight. He's always been protective of Lily, but I never thought. Dragging her outside? That's unreal. Nguyen jotted down notes for her report. I'll include this in my statement. You might want to get that dog a medal or something. The firefighters shut off the power to the basement and advised the Larsons to call an electrician first thing in the morning. They promised to follow up with a full inspection to ensure the house was safe. As the emergency crews left, the Larsons sat in their living room, Lily asleep in Emily's arms, Max lying at their feet. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a mix of gratitude and disbelief. "I can't believe he knew," Emily said, her voice soft. He took her outside to keep her safe. James reached down to scratch Max's ears. "He's always been smart, but this? He's saved her life. Maybe all our lives." They stayed up the rest of the night, too wired to sleep. Emily kept Lily close, checking on her every few minutes, while James researched electrical fires online, his mind still reeling. Max stayed by the nursery door, as if standing guard, his earlier agitation gone but his alertness unchanged. By morning, the Larsons had called an electrician, who arrived promptly and confirmed the fire hazard. The frayed wire was part of an outdated circuit that hadn't been properly inspected when they'd bought the house 2 years earlier. The electrician replaced the damaged wiring and upgraded the panel, warning them that the issue could have been catastrophic if left unchecked. Word of Max's actions spread quickly. A neighbor who'd seen the emergency vehicles posted about it on a local Facebook group, and soon, the story was picked up by a Boise news outlet. Reporters reached out to the Larsons, asking for interviews, but James and Emily declined, wanting to keep their privacy. They did, however, share a photo of Max with a news station, along with a brief statement thanking him for his instincts. The community rallied around the family, dropping off treats for Max and cards for Lily. A local pet store offered a year's supply of dog food, which the Larsons gratefully accepted. Max, oblivious to the fuss, seemed content to resume his routine, following Lily around, napping in the nursery, and alerting James to the mailman's arrival with a single, sharp bark. For the Larsons, the incident was a wake-up call. They scheduled a full home inspection, replaced their smoke detectors, and enrolled Max in advanced training classes to better understand his instincts. Emily, who'd always been close to Max, found herself tearing up whenever she looked at him, overwhelmed by what he'd done. "He's not just a dog," she told James one evening as they watched Max play with Lily in the living room. "He's family. He knew what we didn't." James nodded, his hand resting on Max's head.
"Yeah.
And he's got a job for life, keeping an eye on her." Lily, too young to understand what had happened, seemed to sense Max's importance. She giggled whenever he nudged her gently, her tiny hands reaching for his fur. Max, ever patient, let her tug at his ears, his eyes soft but watchful. The story of Max's actions became a local legend, shared by neighbors and retold at community events. It was a reminder of the bond between humans and animals and of the quiet, unassuming heroes who walk on 4 legs. For the Larsons, it was more than a story. It was the night their dog saved their daughter, and the moment they realized just how much they owed him.